Hello, and welcome to Authentic Points of View podcast. I am McKenna. Just joking. I just wanted to see what she would say. I'm Danielle.
Oh, and I'm Mckenna.
Yeah, I was just joking. I just wanted to see the response. I know. Just switched it up. Never done that before. Really excited about today's guest, and she's so awesome. And as you know, the time got changed, so I really appreciate her for being flexible. If you don't know, we went to Maryland the last few days, and we are now back. Just got back at around 4 o'clock, so so we're excited to be back. And we're excited again about today's guest. So Chris Wasko is a spiritual counselor, psychic medium, and energy healer dedicated to guiding individuals through healing and personal growth.
Welcome to the show.
Hi, ladies. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for, again, being flexible and coming on. I'm really excited. I'm excited about a lot of topics so that you are an expert in. So, first of all, how old were you when you discovered that you had psychic mediumship? I don't know, how does it, like, the those abilities?
Well, for me, when I was getting into this, it was definitely much later. But what's interesting is it was really my healing journey that led me to it. So looking back in hindsight, I recognize I was already doing it, but I always would have dismissed it. I would have called it a coincidence or just some one-off. So I probably have had the gifts my entire life, but as far as really getting into it, it wasn't until probably my mid to late 30s.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. So when you say that you didn't notice it or your healing journey, like, do you want to kind of go into, you don't have to say exactly what happened, but like what part of the healing journey did you start being like awakened to, oh, wow, I have some abilities?
Yeah, I actually have no problem telling what happened because I
Okay.
think it's a big part of my story. But I mean, because my background is in business, so I absolutely
Wow.
probably just referred to myself as a muggle. I was just living life as I thought I should be. And in this time, I was starting to recognize that I have extremely narcissistic parents. And a lot of the traumas that had affected me growing up were now starting to affect my own children. And it was becoming quite a threat. And I made the very difficult decision to cut off my parents. Now, if you would have told me that that decision was going to change my life, I don't know if I would have believed it in the level that it has, because well, I ultimately was just trying to heal myself, heal my nervous system, heal all my trauma responses, really crack open that shell of what narcissism is, what narcissistic abuse is, and what it does to an individual, what it can do to a family. I was really healing that. But the more I was healing, the more I recognized my sensitivity is enhancing. And then I started seeing people in spirit in my mind's eye. I started hearing things. I was having crazy dreams. And in the beginning, I just tried to ignore it and dismiss it, as I probably did my whole life, because when it happened when I was younger, it usually was a one-off. I would have something happen at one age and it wouldn't happen again for like 5 years. So that was a little easier. But at this point, it was happening almost every day. And I think at first I thought I was losing my mind, but the more I just trusted myself and trusted the process, the more I recognized that this was my path, and I just decided, okay, this is the one I'll walk for now, and we'll see where this goes.
Wow. I have a question. Go ahead. Do you have a question? No, go ahead. All right. So, how was it going from the business world to like wow, like going, yeah, that's totally different, opposite, like, my God.
Business to woo-woo, basically.
Yeah.
Well, I would still consider myself pretty grounded in a lot of ways. A lot of the clients I get will actually even tell me that they appreciate that, because It could take time for people to really get past the elements of cognitive dissonance to really have faith and believe in the process. So the fact that I can understand, I understand where you're at and I've been there, I think it helps. But yeah, it was really this kind of unfolding, because in the beginning, like I said, I wasn't really believing it. I was just trying to heal. I just wanted to
Yeah.
feel better. I was anxious for the first time in my life because I have very vindictive parents. So I was just terrified. What are they going to do to me? Are they going to try and hurt me? Are they going to try and take my kids away? All these scenarios popping up in my head of what they might do because they were mad. But that was my life. That was my whole childhood. And I really had to understand that's a trauma response I was having. So I wasn't even really thinking about these, quote unquote abilities. I was just more like in survival mode.
Wow. You got a question? Ah!
I'm just shocked.
Why don't you ask what's the difference between a psychic
I was going to ask that.
Go ahead.
What's the difference from like a psychic and a medium?
Good question. So a medium, the reason that word is usually easier to remember of what's done, you serve as a medium between two worlds. So a medium communicates to not just people in the spirit world, but angels. They connect to Akashic records, past lives, that kind of stuff. Whereas a psychic is going to connect to the living and read energy and make predictions. For me, predictions aren't a foregone conclusion. I'll usually see paths. So if someone comes to me and they're like, "What should I do?" For one, I never tell people what I think they should do because it's not my job to ever get in the way of free will. But I will see, I see a few paths, and this is the one I see most highlighted, which is usually the one they're currently on, or it's the one they're very likely to jump on. But our paths change based on our choices. So you can go to somebody and ask, what should I do? And that's why I said I don't like to tell people what to do because it really comes down to the individual. So, but again, back to your question is, that's usually how it's broken down. Some people will just call it mediumship. Some people will just call it psychic. So I wouldn't say that it's clear cut in definition, but that's how I generally work, how I was taught. So that's how I share it.
Okay, so when you say you were taught, so like when did you discover that you, whatever, we don't have to say abilities, but that you were having these dreams and all this stuff was happening, and then you thought about, oh wow, this might have happened when I was little. Did you go to like a school or a person, or like how did that work to kind of hone in everything?
Yeah, I started taking classes. I started just finding people that taught psychic mediumship classes. And when I first started, I was very excited about it because I didn't know what was going to happen. It was just kind of this, let's try this. And when I started developing further and we were doing practice with other students and, on Zoom is usually how we were doing that. I think I was becoming really excited at the fact that I was right, that, I would be saying, oh, I have somebody and I think it's this person, but I really was just kind of winging it. It felt like I had no idea. I'm like, I think I have this. This is the feeling I'm getting, because I'm primarily clairsentient. So most things come to me through feelings. I'll feel things in my body. I'll get sensations. Whereas I have other abilities, that's just my dominant one. And our dominant ones are usually most prevalent when we're developing. So when I was developing and I was just getting all these feelings and I would share with the person, they'd be like, yeah, I know who you have. And I'm like, great. I just was like, this is so exciting. And then it was just figuring that out because a lot of it is a matter of understanding how spirit is relaying messages to us. So I don't believe there are people out there that are necessarily terrible mediums so much as they might not fully understand all the messages. I don't think it's that easy because we live in the 3D. We're all about the human interaction and things we can see, feel, and touch. And spirit doesn't communicate in the way humans do. They don't have a body anymore. So it takes some time to understand that. And I think, honestly, we're always evolving and developing in this kind of work when we choose to do it.
Yeah. So what? She's like, you want to ask a question? Wait, not yet. We'll talk about that in a little bit. So when, okay, so when you feel like, I'm kind of, I don't know, I'm confused because everybody's different. And so, of course, I watched some of the famous ones, and like one scribbles and one holds a, like, somebody's clothing or item, and then another person, so when somebody comes to you, like, I know you said feelings as in like emotions and stuff, but do you scribble, or are you just like all of a sudden feel something, or how does that work? I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. I think this is a great question, and I could even share with you what some of these other mediums you've seen are doing. So when someone scribbles, that what they're essentially doing is they're trying to distract their beta brain, and they're shifting to alpha brain waves, because we are most connected when we could shift out of those beta brain waves. So beta brain waves is where we're just communicating, we're thinking. Alpha, we've now shifted into kind of like a daydream. So we kind of disconnect a little bit from, this plane, and now we're opening ourselves up to the astral plane to connect to spirit. Another example you gave is when you hold an object. That's known as psychometry. So you are literally holding an object that once belonged to that person in spirit. So you're connecting to the energy of that person. And again, it really helps you just zone in and focus on that particular person and on that energy. So these are all methods we use. I actually teach psychic development classes now too. So that's why I really like to teach people all these different methods, because we all work differently. So most of my work now is working with the living. So what I do is I will connect with somebody, just as you and I are meeting right now. A lot of my clients are through Zoom. People do come to me in my office, but what I'm doing is I'm energetically connecting my chakra system to their chakra system. And then I am reading the 7 main chakras, and I'm giving them an energy read, what I'm feeling, what's coming up, because most of my clients now are people that have dealt with trauma, narcissistic abuse, and childhood trauma. So I will find in their bodies what is resonating and what is really asking to be looked at. And that'll look different for everybody, but energy is always revealed in layers. So the first layer will be like, say I feel something in their solar plexus chakra. That's layer 1. So it's like I get this hit in my body, something's going on there. And then I go behind, what's the next layer? And it will really depend on the individual, because like I said, everyone is different, and we all are going to show different things in our body. But why I more work with the living than the dead now, I would say, is because I like doing things you just can't Google, right? It's very easy now to look people up and who did they lose in social media, and that's fine, and not that I would do that, but I think just, there's so many cynical and skeptical people out there that, I got so focused on, just again, working with people with trauma, and I was really able to feel everything that they experienced and then also help them. And I think that was a lot of why I was guided with this, because I really do love helping people and helping them heal. So that's a lot of what I do in my everyday now. It's just I'm doing an energy read, and I am telling someone what their body is telling me.
That's really cool. So the wow. I have a question. Do you have a question? We used to write out questions, but we don't. We might have to.
Everything is just so clicking.
It's clicking?
Yeah, everything just makes sense, and it's like, whoa.
It's like, whoa. Okay, so what part makes sense to you?
Everything. It makes sense.
Explain what everything is.
So,
like, what do you mean? Can you elaborate?
So everything, what I mean by everything is like, it makes sense that like your journey that you had to find out that you had these abilities, that makes sense. And it's like, whoa, like that's
whoa.
Whoa. It's like
whoa.
Click, like everything is clicking, meaning everything is making sense. Like all the questions that I think of, you explain, and it all clicks and makes sense.
Cool.
Well, I'm glad it's all clicking because it's been an exciting journey. So I could understand in some cases this can be a little surprising. I think I'm more surprised than anyone.
Wow. So how long, you don't have, well, that kind of tells your age. You don't have to tell your age, but how long have you been doing the energy healing work though? Like, when did that come about in this process?
Good question. I would say I've been doing that, I don't know, like 6, 7 years now. Because a lot of how this started too was it was just really it's such an organic process for me. I didn't one day say, "Oh, I can now see spirit. I'm going to start doing this for work." It was actually the last thing I thought I would be doing. I was just doing it for fun. And at that time is when my kids were still young. We were going on play dates with other moms, and I would hear children's inner thoughts. And I most often heard children's inner thinking when they felt they couldn't share something. So, like, for example, if their mother was complaining about them, and not in a bad way necessarily, but when our kids are young and we're tired and we're overwhelmed, we're venting, right? Especially in these play date situations. So, a mom would be like, "Oh, he's really frustrating me. He's just not listening." And, just give these examples. And I would then hear the child's inner thoughts. And if I was, close enough to the mother, I would just explain, well, I actually can hear what he's thinking. You want me to share? So it was how this started really evolving for me, because I would have moms start reaching out to me because they referred me to other moms. And I was getting really nice emails of really helped my relationship with my child. Thank you so much. And I recognized a lot of patterns too. I recognized when there was narcissism involved. I recognized when there was trauma, especially in the parents, and some of these elements that were now being passed on. So I was essentially bringing a lot of these things to light. And that, I think, is really what made me, or I shouldn't say made me, but shifted me into this work. I had enough people like, you really should do this. And enough people were now contacting me. I was like, well, I guess I can serve in this manner. So I'll do that. And I have been since.
That's awesome.
When you say patterns, do you mean like the grandparents, the narcissism goes to the parents, goes to the kids, and then
That'll be a pattern. Yeah, that's one of them. I'll be able to feel what side of the family it's on.
Wow.
And kind of follow the line. If it's on both sides of the family, I can also follow what's the heavier one, I'll call it. The heavier one is usually the one that's more intense, the more dominant in somebody's energy.
That's so cool. So you don't have to do this with us, but I'm just interested because I'm not going to tell you what it is, but well, obviously you're going to know hers because if it's not me, but could you, like, can you feel like what side? I don't know. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You don't have to do it.
I'm good with being put on the spot. I get this a lot, so it's okay. Put me on
No,
the spot.
it's just really cool and interesting, and I love it because so many people do not believe in all these things, right?
Yeah.
And I'm the type of person that I believe in so many things because I've seen like firsthand like real things happen, and I think it's so I got goosebumps, but it's really cool. So if you don't mind, can you just, like, I don't know.
Well, help direct, because if I'm going into energy, I'll get everything. So do you want me to focus on something in particular?
Yeah. So with the narcissistic thing, could you tell like who it would be? I don't know how to ask it without giving.
Do you want me to read you or Mckenna?
Me?
Yeah, because the thing is, if it's not her, it has to be my other parent. So it's kind of obvious with me. But I mean, if you want to, you can.
Well, here's the tricky thing about that, and this can always come out as not so great. So definitely brace yourself for what's to come in this conversation.
Okay, since I'm an adult, let's do me because I don't want anything to come up and she's a kid and then I would be like, what? And most of the time I'm more I'm emotional, but I can control more than a child can.
I can control.
Well, I mean, for one, I will always respect energetic boundaries. So if anything came up and it seemed inappropriate, I wouldn't put it out there. But it's more the fact that if there is a situation where one parent stands out as a narcissist, the other parent will have narcissistic tendencies. And that also comes from a generational pattern because it's in our energy. So I will use myself as an example because I don't like to put other people on the spot for this, but I was raised by two people on different ends of the narcissistic spectrum, which put me in full-blown territory to have narcissistic elements myself. As much as I tried very, very hard to not be like my parents, what I didn't recognize is what happens is in kids like me especially, we get tunnel vision. So what that is we say, I am not going to do that. That upset me and hurt me so much. I swore I would never do that to my own children. So it creates an element of tunnel vision. And what that does is has us so hyper focused on not doing one thing, we don't recognize the other elements that come into that. And especially because narcissism is a spectrum, the more subtle aspects of that spectrum are not coming out as full-blown narcissism in general as an energy. It usually comes up more as trauma. So you will have probably in these kinds of relationships, one parent that is absolutely more of that overt narcissist, whereas the other parent will probably fall into some covert narcissist tendencies because of the trauma. So if you're ever in a relationship with a narcissist, if you are ever parented by a narcissist, it's in you. And it's just a matter of be self-reflective, because anyone who is absolutely narcissistic personality disorder has no ability to be self-reflective. Psychologists and psychiatrists are the first to say it's incredibly difficult to diagnose those kind of people because they never come in for help. It's always the people that have had to survive those relationships that are going for help. So when I say tendencies, most people will refer to this as fleas. That's kind of what is the verbiage used in that. Like, you're not a narcissist, you have narcissistic fleas. So we'll have these elements. So I will say, Danielle, you do have the elements of the fleas. And I am also a card-carrying member of the Flea Club. So it could be a little tough to hear. That's why I'm not like, you're a narcissist, because you're not. But when we have these tendencies, it affects us. So the first thing I'm carried to in your energy, I would want to ask about your relationship with your mother, because I feel that there are aspects in there that have created a mother wound for you, because I feel it in your heart chakra. And that would also not only affect you as a daughter, it also affects you as a mother. So Mckenna would be feeling some of this as well and not even be realizing it. She will when she's older, unless it's something that you guys are trying to heal together, which I feel you're already trying to do. And then it's really also easy to get into both of your past lives. You guys have very strong sister energy. So in your most previous past life, you were sisters. And that's a lot of why this connection is very strong. But it will also make the mother-daughter dynamic a little challenging. You probably notice that Mckenna might act a lot older than you at times and kind of try and tell you like how she wants things. She's very set in her ways. She's also an old soul though, and her soul is older than yours. Yeah, so that's a lot of what comes up too. So she's going to have these elements of just feeling like she knows more than you, and in some ways she actually does, because we're just looking at it on a spiritual and an energetic level. On a human level, obviously you're here to guide her and to parent her and everything that means to be a parent, right? But there are elements where that can be a little tricky, especially as she gets to around 15 or 16, I feel, that's going to be a little challenged.
I believe it. We've been saying that since she was like a baby, not baby, but pretty young. So yes, my mom, absolutely. I have healed a lot. I actually am a life coach for trauma and grief, and I have healed a lot. Something this weekend has taken me out of I allowed it, and my energy is really off than my normal. I got, like, even actually right before this, to be honest, right before this, I found out something that like shifted a lot of stuff in me. And she was like, how are you going to do it? Are you going to be okay? And I was like, I'll be all right. So yeah, but definitely my mother, and I did the same thing. I tried so many ways to not be like certain things. My brother passed away. My brother had OCD very severely. My mom has OCD, never was diagnosed. My grandmother has it. So I wanted to be like, I was like, whoop. And so with my parenting, there's things like she yelled all the time, and I didn't want to be like that. But then I was yelling at first. But I'm different with her. My kid's age gap is so big. Like there's 12 years older than her. So it's 12 years, 10 years. My bonus son is 7 years. And then so she's the only one at home now. They're all grown. And so yes, I have changed a lot with her, and I don't want the relationship I had with my oldest one to be like that with her. But and she is a great kid, and it's so funny that your soul's older than mine. I believe it. I 100% believe it. So she has always like known things or like songs or things, and so I'm like, did my mom? Because my mom, listens to iPod or whatever back in the day, and so I would be like, did you hear that from her? No. Sometimes older songs are in kids' movies and stuff, but sometimes there's no way she would have known every single lyric or every single whatever. So that's really cool. But as in this physical, she has to be like, so that's the hard part. She is, but she does like try to mother me sometimes. But I don't feel like at this point in my life, I'm very immature. I'm usually together. But when the kids, I had my oldest at 18. So yes, so I had a lot of growing up to do. But what? No, you're a kid. Well, I'm short. We already know it's your dad. So, but so explain the fleas thing, because like I don't ever, and I'm not trying to be defensive, but I don't ever put myself in that category, because the way that I know as a narcissistic parent is like, and just me, I'm not professional, but like, for example, my mom would always make it about her. Everything's about her. She would embarrass me, treat me horrible. Like one time she told the lady at the clothing store, don't worry, she's changing. She won't look like this much longer, and stuff like that. So she would buy me clothes because I was embarrassing her. Mm-hmm. And anytime she would do something, and even she helps me with her, so I have to like, I'm like, okay, I got this. I try to be as professional with my mom. I try to disconnect the emotions. I was doing very well with it. But those things have been bothering me lately. I have a mind body coach, and she brought that up as well. But it's just like, I don't feel like I have that, but I'm sure there's a lot of things. So can you just explain a little bit of like, I know you said like the fleas is like part of it, but you're not. I'm sorry. You can just explain it.
I think it's more of the fact that when once we go into the word narcissist or narcissism, it could make people feel like, oh crap, is that me, right?
Yeah.
Like, so when we could kind of detach from that first, because it's not it, but like I said, it could be scary, because it's just like, oh no, it's like when we know and we've been in those relationships and know how incredibly damaging it is, we absolutely would do everything in our power to not do that. So what comes up in your energy is the wounds. So what happens is we then parent from those wounds, not even realizing. So a mother wound is really very challenging, right? And yours is in your heart space, which is where a lot of them tend to be. And that can make us respond in our parenting in those ways, not even realizing it. They're not very obvious. It's not like, oh, you do this exact thing. They're often very subtle. Sometimes it has to do with, the inner child coming out, right? So the inner child often comes out in a defensive and protective manner. So I'll just use an example. Like if a kid were to talk back or talk loudly to a parent, like, right? So the inner child will step up. You're not allowed to do that. We know that that's been triggered because we get angry and we get defensive when our children are yelling at us or talking back to us in a disrespectful way. That's the inner child coming out. So we are perceiving this as a threat. That is what I mean. Like, that's the kind of fleas that come in because the body feels it's under attack and the body responds from that trauma response. So hence is responding from a wound. So that, and really when you get into narcissism in its depth, that often is the case. But when you have people that have gone like full-fledged into that narcissistic energy without the ability to self-reflect, without the ability to ever want to look at what they can be doing to other people, that's a whole other element. And that's certainly not what this is. But it's our triggers that come up, and nothing brings up triggers like parenting. And it's a matter of, are we parenting from those triggers because they're often related to a wound? So that's really those kind of things I help people bring attention to and help them heal their energy around.
Okay, well, I want her to talk, but I have a million questions. You can ask a question. I know it's shocking. We're like, go ahead. Do you have a question?
I just want to say that what you said is so accurate. It's incredible and it's shocking and it's crazy.
No, don't say crazy.
Well,
no, it is. I thank you for saying that. It is, because it's surreal. And but you're actually, Mckenna, why I appreciate that so much, because this is why I like working with the living, because like, there's just those things like, you and I haven't met before today. I don't know either of you, right? And here I am just telling you a portion of your story. It could be a little surreal and that could feel a little crazy. Now, it means that you've opened your energy to me. So I thank you for that, because you can also close your energy and not even realize that. And that usually comes with people that you wouldn't trust. And some people aren't meant to be trusted. So it's good that you're protective with your energy. But I do thank you for allowing me to step in.
No problem.
So when this is why I'll say the crazy word too, because before we said anything, I felt heaviness here before we even talked about the energy thing, and I felt like something went like through me or whatever, like in my heart, and that's the crazy part to me, is because I didn't say anything, and I was like, I don't know if this means anything, and this is before we really even started talking. So I was like, because I believe in so many things, so I was just like, it might mean something. I don't know what it means, but I felt it like that. So, wow. Anyway, okay. So I find it fascinating about the old soul thing, and actually, my ex was the one that kind of got me into like seeing other perspectives and other things and believing in other things as well. Not that I don't believe in God, I do. It's just like I believe there's other things that can help people heal and stuff. So can you kind of explain, even though we just talked about old soul, like I saw a video of like people that lived, like they were little kids and they were in the war and they could explain the plane and all this stuff. Is that kind of like what it is, or?
That's one of those. I mean, usually those kids are remembering a past life. They're not necessarily old souls.
Okay.
But I would certainly believe them to be. I mean, I often have to meet those kinds of kids to feel their energy. But usually a child that is that connected is very sensitive, and old souls are incredibly sensitive. So it is highly likely that they are. But those stories are one indication, because like I said, they tend to be very wise. They tend to have a quiet confidence to them. They tend to have slower energy. That could change, though, if they have a lot of trauma in this lifetime. So energy is not always based on speed. But really, it's just about experience, too, right? So you'll have a child who could be 5 years old, and they just seem to have this depth of experience that you can't explain. And you just feel that. You feel that in them. So that's a lot of what I will sense. The way that they look, I could usually see it in their eyes, or even just as soon as they speak, and I'll just feel this. They just have this vibration to them because they are very deep in their energy, and they are often very sincere. These are not the type of people that do well with lying, and they really respect people being honest, and they actually really struggle if anyone is not honest. They can usually sense a lie and not always understand that, and that could be very challenging and frustrating if you are around people who lie a lot, because as a child you might think it's you, that you've done something wrong. So again, this is why I get into the elements of trauma, because it is incredibly common for old souls to have a narcissist nearby. And if there's a narcissist, there's an old soul nearby. I noticed that rather early in this work, and that I felt was kind of uncanny, because usually people will talk about the empath narcissist relationship, but also just going a layer deeper, every empath is an old soul.
See, I'm not trying to claim something on myself, but I always felt like, and I've been told that I was an empath, and I'm very empathetic also because I'm a nurse, but I've always, since I was little, have felt other people's energies, but I don't know how to read it like you would. Like, I can tell when something's off with someone, or if something is wrong and they don't want to say it or something like that, but it wouldn't be on where I'm like, oh, this is in your so-and-so chakra or your root chakra or your, like I wouldn't be able to like do that. But so that's fascinating. Oh, see, I feel something again.
It just takes time and practice.
Yeah, well, I'm going to talk to you because I'm very interested. So I want to talk to you afterwards, but when you said, because we're really going off of the, did you want to ask a question about the narcissist? I'm so sorry. She's very in shock, which is, that's cool though. Isn't it cool?
I'm like, whoa.
It's so neat. So,
Whoa.
Yeah, whoa. I know. It's whoa. We can't say whoa the whole time. We got to really have a conversation. Whoa. Whoa. Whoa.
I like whoa.
We're silly. We're very silly. What do you think about that? We used to be sisters. That's cool.
What, like?
So do you know what past lives and stuff, what that means?
I think so. I think it means like you have a past life of, I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Can you explain that, please?
Yeah, I'll explain it two ways, because not everyone likes to look at it the one way, and it could be a little confusing. But I do like to explain it both ways because, well, the answers will come. But old souls basically have had multiple lives, especially a lot of Earth lives, because you don't just come to Earth. You don't have to just come to Earth, but old souls often I do feel a lot of earth energy with them. I do feel a lot of star seed energy with them as well. They are not necessarily earth bound, but again, they probably have had a lot of earth lives. But it's really thinking of it and knowing I've been here before. So that's one way I like to look at it. But the other aspect is understanding that we are living all of these lives at the same time. And this is a little harder for people to grasp because it's not at all 3D. So that fact that like, oh, how have we done that? It's just kind of being able to expand the mind. But, because time is an illusion. We often hear that, right? Time is a very earth thing, but time allows us to have these experiences. So that's why our life does kind of revolve around time, the clock, birthdays, all that, right? But we are living all of these lives at the same time. So it's like, well, how do you measure age? How do you measure time? You measure by experience. So an old soul, when you look at it in that way, has had a lot of experience, and you'll just feel that, and you'll feel that energy. But they're also carrying a lot of trauma, because think of it, if you've lived a lot of lives, and life is hard, earth is difficult, earth is challenging. So if you've done that a lot of times, you're going to be carrying some weight to your energy, and that's often what I'll feel in people.
Oh, okay. Yes, please ask the question.
So, tying back to what you said about narcissism, I know what it means, but if there's like some kids who are younger than me who don't know what it means, can you like describe what that could be and like what the actions could be like?
Yeah, well, I always like to explain the fact that narcissism is a spectrum because a lot of people do not talk about that. People, when they think of a narcissist, they think of what's known as an overt narcissist, someone that is very dominant, domineering. But you can also have a covert narcissist, and that's someone that is very manipulative and usually emotionally manipulative. Now, you could have narcissists that act as both and kind of work their way within that spectrum. But the kind of behaviors, like a covert narcissist, for example, one of their favorite tactics is the silent treatment. And it basically is, you've upset me and I don't know how to deal with this, so I'm just going to ignore you. And usually they'll ignore you until you come apologizing to them, often for something they did in the first place. So that's considered a covert narcissist tactic. An overt narcissistic tactic is more of the yelling, they could be rather violent, abusive. They are often very controlling of finances. So there's a lot of financial abuse and manipulation. But ultimately, whether you look at it on covert or overt, it's about control. They want control. So this is where also narcissists can feel very challenged with their own children. Usually I see this most commonly by the age of 11 because the kids are really coming into their own. They're becoming their own person. And a narcissistic parent does not like that. They want you to obey and your own person and not come into your own patterns and behaviors and be yourself. They also don't respect boundaries. So there's a lot of elements of that come into place too. For a child, especially a child entering the preteen, teenage years, they're really starting to explore their boundaries. But a narcissistic parent does not like to allow that. And I know we're in the day and age of technology and wanting to keep our kids safe, but there also has to be a fine line of respect in the parent-child relationship and having those boundaries allowed. But like I said, a narcissistic parent does not allow their children to have any boundaries.
So, yeah,
It's like,
it's all right. It's shocking. I know. Well, I think it's pretty awesome. That's my opinion.
It's awesome. It's cool. It's shocking. It's amazing. It's like, whoa.
It is whoa. If we could count how many times we said whoa on this episode, it's like all the times we've said it ever. No, just joking. So
that just shows how amazing you are.
You are so awesome.
Thank you.
I really am excited. I say that a lot too, but I am. Okay. Can you tell us about your book?
Yes, thank you for asking. My book is called An Old Soul's Journey, and it is a book that looks and reads like a children's book, but it is also for inner child healing. So a lot of kids do like my book because when you open the book and each page will have a white rabbit that they can find. So it is appreciated for that. But I also am developing a workbook to go with it to really help people connect with and explore their inner child wounds.
Oh, I love that. So, yes, you can.
Where can we find your book? Because I kind of want one.
Well, we were going to ask that at the end, but go ahead. We always ask that at the end. Go ahead.
You can find it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Yeah, you can find them.
We'll get you. We'll both get it. I want to know too. We need to work on it together. Okay, so the reason why I believe in stuff, and this is just the example. Okay, so a psychic medium told me that, well, my brother told her, I don't know how to say it, but so she told me that my brother wanted me to help kids because I started to write my own book and I became a life coach and all this stuff, and I was like, really? And she said he wanted me to write a book and to help kids. So I stopped writing my book that day. Then the next day I started writing his book. So this is the book that, this is just the example. I have the real ones, but this is just the one downstairs.
I love
And
it.
so I wrote it in honor of him, and this is the stuff in his mind, but I wrote it as a fiction because he did not get help. And so I wanted kids to get help. So I have like the OCD diagnosis, I have coping skills for anxiety, all kinds of different things in here. And then I have real pictures. And this is why I like this one down here, because it's the only one that's color, because they wouldn't let me do it in color, so I had to do it in black and white. These are real pictures of my brother and stuff.
Oh, what a
But-
wonderful tribute to him.
Thank you. It's pretty awesome. So I was excited to be able to do it. And it was the most focused I've ever been because I have a hard time focusing. So it took me 2 months and 3 days to actually write the book part. And because I had a purpose, like I wanted to get it done by what it had been his 40th birthday.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that was my whole goal. And that really helped me stay on focus. So with the chakras and like the energy and healing and stuff that you feel, what can someone do, or that's what you work them through? Like when you work with someone, is that how you, like, so say me and I'm not saying fix me right now, but with the heart chakra, like, are there certain exercises or tools? You don't have to say which ones they are, but like, is there something specifically for each chakra, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I like to be prescriptive in nature where I give people exercises. Sometimes we'll do an exercise where I'm inviting them to walk into their chakra with me, and I'll show them what I see and have them work through what's coming up. Just as an example, I had a client where also had a mother wound. We were in her heart chakra, and of course I expected her mother, but who I did not expect was her brother. And this is where I love how energy is always surprising, both living, by the way, but this is how energy reveals itself. So I see her mom, I see her brother, and I say to her, I said, I see a dark entity on your brother's left shoulder. There's a lot of darkness surrounding him. And she just started crying, and because I knew nothing about her brother. She's like, he's been surrounded by darkness, and for a very long time it's been very challenging. I said, I also see two sides of him, and it's got two names. I said, so I couldn't I couldn't get the names, but I'm like, what do you call him and what does he go by? Because I knew that's what it was. I just couldn't hear the name. So she told me how everyone calls him, the name he does. I'm going to say, I'll make up a name.
Yeah, right. No, yeah.
Everyone calls him Michael, but she calls him Mikey, just as an example. And she's the only one that does that. So I said, okay, I want to bring Mikey forward. And she lost it and completely started crying, but it really helped her heal in this space. And then so we were able to bring Mikey forward and talk and like work into that energy and what was trying to heal here, what was really trying to be known. And then we brought Michael forward again. What would you like to say to him now that you've been able? And then I would ask if she was comfortable with my getting messages from them. So the message she got from Mikey was, I'm still here. And she just was like, okay, I'm good. Like kind of didn't want any more messages there. It was very emotional. This is one of a very, very emotional session. But one thing that was so beautiful after the session, I got an email probably a half hour to an hour later saying just after we got off the call, her brother texted her, love ya. And she's like, that was Mikey. And I was like, I love that happened for you. Like we were able to have this beautiful healing session, and it ignited energy where in her life, like here's her brother who she hadn't heard from in a while, or at least not that side of him. And there he was letting her know I'm still here. So it was really neat. So that's just one example. I really go with how spirit guides me. So it's always going to come up with what's best for that person. So I will have all different sorts of things. Sometimes we're going into the space. I will often give exercises after to help just calm the energy, because anytime trauma is coming up in the body, that's an element where their energy is stuck or just too ignited, so it needs to calm. So like I said, I like to give people tools, and they kind of build this toolbox, because if people have intense trauma, they meet with me rather regularly. And so over time, I'm like, you're building your healing toolbox, and you'll be able to pull from this, because if I'm doing my job right, they are eventually not going to need me anymore.
Correct.
Yeah. My goal. So
yeah.
But I always want them to have that toolbox, because when triggers come up, and they always do, because we're human and it's Earth, they'll have that for them. And, you know, I still will have clients. Like, I had a client actually last week that I haven't seen in a year, and she just kind of wanted like a tune up, if you will. So we work together.
Aw. Look, I'm crying. I'm such a yeah. I think that's cool when you talk about, so like one day almost everything we talked about happened. We saw this person that reminded us of one person. I said, that looks like the lady that works at Walmart. Guess what? We saw the lady that works at Walmart. And then she was talking about not seeing her friend. We saw her friend in the mall. This was the same day. And it was like, that's the past time. I'm like, what? Then on Wednesday, I got something at work, and she's like, put it in your folder. I did not say out loud, I cannot find my folder. But I hadn't seen it in a long time. We moved here, you know, a year and a half, well, almost 2 years ago. Never seen the folder. Don't know where it is. I was looking for something to take to Maryland, and I found the folder. And it was like the same day that not true. The next day. But like, and then something else I needed, I accidentally found because I thought about it. So that's cool. Like, and that's what I try to talk about too, because like, if with the energy, like the negative stuff, so if you think about always the negative outcome or like what you don't want, that's what you're going to attract more of. And I had to learn that the hard way. So, you know, and it's just like, I think like what you're doing is amazing. And I almost said something weird. I was going to say I love working with people with trauma, but that's not what I meant. But like, I love helping people. That sounded really bad in my mind, and I still said it out loud. But I love to help people as well with trauma and healing from grief and stuff. It's such a beautiful thing when they couldn't do something, and then now they could. Like, for example, like, you know, one of my clients couldn't go to a certain place or something like that because it triggered them, or couldn't talk about the person that passed away because they would get really angry, and now they're like taking their ashes and spreading it where in different places. It's so amazing, you know. You have a question? Or are you just gonna say whoa again? Whoa. Well, you can ask it.
If you could go back and tell your 13-year-old self something, what would
Oh, if I could go back and talk to younger me, I would tell her it's all going to be okay.
Sorry, she just said this is the best person to ask. Because we were talking about the narcissistic parents. Because we ask that every episode, but you're right, this is the best person to ask. And when you were little, did you didn't know that they were narcissists, correct? Or
I had no idea. I mean, just from a psychological standpoint, as a child, when you're being raised, your first instinct is to survive. So you're going to adapt to the environment that you're in, and you're going to work to make your parents happy. And that is how trauma responses develop. The fight, flight, freeze, or fawn develop because we are adapting to an environment. And when you have parents that are putting you down, criticizing you, hitting you, you know, take your pick, I got them all. You're going to look at yourself like you're the problem. And I absolutely did. I had very low self-esteem. I was, you know, had a lot of self-hatred, didn't feel lovable, didn't feel people wanted me, even though they did. I mean, I had a lot of friends. I had boyfriends. You know, on the outside, it did not look like I was lacking, but on the inside, I was incredibly lonely and incredibly sad. And if, like I said, if I could go back to younger me, I would just let her know it is all going to be okay. You're stronger than you realize. And this is all teaching you because one day you're going to be able to help others.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it's such a great lesson. Like, I didn't understand that stuff either until I was actually interviewing a narcissistic abuse coach. And so I have been in relationships with people that are narcissists, but I didn't realize that the tendencies and the stuff with the parenting. And she started talking about that, and I was like, "Holy shnikes of America!" It makes sense.
Yeah, it's
But
incredibly challenging.
yeah, and so it's something. It's it's difficult not to put all our business out on the street because I still talk to mine, but it's difficult because she loves her. Like it's just a hard thing. Like I've cut her off before, and it's easier if the kids weren't involved, right? Because I'm grown and I feel like I don't want toxic energy. I'm trying to heal. I'm doing so many things to get myself together, and to make a better life for her and for myself and the ones that are older and my granddaughter. And so um, it's really challenging.
It is.
It challenges, like you said, like the inner child is like, and that's what. So my mind body coach literally said, "Why do you need her to be proud of you? Like, do you need her to be proud of you?" And I was like, "Not need, but want." "Well, why do you want?" And I said, "Well, shouldn't parents be proud of their kid?" That's like, shouldn't the parents be proud? And she was like, "But it's okay if she's not, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, like, it's okay." I mean, I wrote that book in honor of my brother. It didn't matter to me, and it mattered very much my niece because she was 3 when he passed away. So I included her. She actually is the sister in the book because the character does not have a kid, and so she's his twin sister. And I knew it was very important to put her into the book, and I used everybody's middle names, and so that was very important for me. And not that it gave her closure, but it was like something that was kind of cool to just include her in. But I didn't need anybody else to, but it's nice to feel it, right? Does that make sense? But
Yeah, well, you were able to work with a wound on many layers there, and when we do that for ourselves, we serve ourselves, but you also did it to help others. So, in serving yourself, you're also serving the world.
yeah. Oh, sorry. You're not boring. We just had a long, like,
No offense taken.
this trip was, oh, yes. Yes, you may.
Where can we find you?
The easiest place to find me is my website, which is my name, chriswasko.com. And I'm also on Facebook a lot at Chris Wasko Medium. So I put a lot of stuff on there just to help inspire people and maybe make them laugh here or there.
That's so cool. So, how do your kids feel about what you're doing? That's sorry if that's too personal, but
I think it was this gradual evolution because I didn't realize that when I was reading other children's minds that I had already been doing it with my own kids. And because when we are just living, it's all normal, right? We don't look at it as special. And one of my kids was like, "Yeah, you've been doing that my whole life." Of course, that you're able to do it. But I never realized how much that was a thing in my own life because, like I said, it was just my normal. But and I think it was also confusing to me not realizing that that's not something everyone could do. And I think a lot of people that are in any way have developed any gifts, they'll say the same thing of they just thought that's what everyone could do. I didn't realize it was quote unquote special.
That's really cool. So, thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. And I was vulnerable, but it was cool. And that's something I was very young. I was so like exactly how you explained it. That's how I felt. I always felt like kind of alone, even though like I really wasn't alone. You didn't say that exactly, but like I always felt like I was the problem, and like that I was, because that's kind of what it was always portrayed as, like, and so to figure out now. I was like, oh, it's okay. I really I was just being a kid. I didn't even be, So it feels good now to look back and be like, that makes sense. But you're very awesome. I really appreciate you so much. This was so like eye-opening and fascinating. And I don't think I've ever exposed her too much of like to any of this, because when I do any sessions or whatever with people, she's not like she's not sitting beside me. So that's why she's really, really shocked, because you probably heard of it, but you didn't hear it really happen in real life, right? Okay. Yeah, I know, it's so cool. But if you mind, okay. So if you don't mind, Chris, if you don't have somewhere to be, if you can just hang out in a second when we come off, I'm going to talk to you for 1 second. Okay, so anyways, everybody, next week we will be here at 3 is the correct time. So thank you so much, everybody, for watching and to change your schedule with us. And have a great day. I hope something you heard today helps you change your point of view or see somebody else's authentic point of view. So thank you. Thanks, Chris, so much.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everybody.